Greetings, our Poe Unpluggers. Jeannie and I have gone back and forth because, we have the regular group and it's like we're the Poe Unpluggers. And so, welcome back for our special episode on talking about Netflix Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher. And, Jeannie, one thing I thought about, we have not actually read The Fall of the House of Usher during a regular Poe Unplugged. We need to get around to reading that eventually.
Yeah, we need to add it to the list. And the good thing about it, and as we're going to discuss about the Netflix thing, it's not all Fall of the House of Usher. So it kind of doesn't have any kind of sway whether you've read it or not, as long as you just got an overall remembrance or cliff notes as we used to in school whenever we were too lazy to do anything. Sparks notes or whatever they're called.
Jeannie,
Although I
don't be a
love how you,
cheater.
yeah, hey, no. I'm a teacher. I have to figure out all the ways you can cheat so I can come down on you. And I love how you called
And
us the Poe Unpluggers because I was started giggling because I'm like, oh, we're just unplugged, so that makes us Poe crazies. That works.
and Will says, watch out for the those
Easter
hidden
eggs.
treasures or Easter eggs as they call them. Yes,
Huh?
absolutely. Well, who wants to start our discussion?
Well, why don't we just start from the first episode and just go?
Okay.
Who wants to talk about the first episode? What was the little head nod to Poe in the first episode, other than just being called, Usher?
Yeah. And I
I
think
thought
yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I felt with the mother it was the premature burial kind of thing, when they put her and then she, which at first, I mean, that caught my attention. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to be bad. He's going to follow it. It's going to be modern. We're going to be work with it.
Mm-hmm.
First episode was fine. I was okay with it. Second forward, I started having a little issues.
Oh yeah.
It just a little bit. Maybe I'm just squeamish. I don't know. It just was overkill in some scenes.
Yeah.
Well, for me, oh sorry, Holly, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead, Jeannie. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that, it got a slow start, and it was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe no, maybe no,
No.
and I caught the little cryptographic evidence, like the number of the house that they lived in,
Hmm.
those little tidbits there. But it's like you could just predict what was going to happen. And I hate when I watch things and I can predict things. And it had nothing to do with reading what Poe wrote. It's just that, oh, I know where you're going with this.
You could figure it
So,
out.
yeah. So it's like I knew that the dude that was the head of Fortunato was going to end
Hmm.
up being their dad. I'm like, yeah, let's just make it as obvious as we possibly can.
Well,
So,
and it's I knew forward what was going to happen to the next person just by those little things they put in each scene.
yeah. Well, I love the names of the shows. Like
That's true.
the very first one wasn't an actual title of Poe's works, but it had a line from his most famous, Midnight Dreary,
Hmm.
which fit with the end episode being named The Raven.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
he had those little tidbits of nuances that he stuck here and there that true Poe people. But the one thing that really got me is I hated the soft porn aspect of this damn show.
I,
I hate to say it, but I could have done without some of that stuff. Okay.
I agree, and all the F words that they used.
Yes. Yes. It's
I
like,
maybe I'm
Um,
getting older.
you know what's so funny about that is my father-in-law said the same thing about the F word. But see, I'm from New Jersey and I have a potty mouth and I curse all the time. So my husband and I were like, I actually didn't realize it, but that's probably just because of who I am and where I live. But I was like, wow, I didn't actually catch the curse words.
Oh,
And I don't know, maybe I'm a sex act, but I love nudity. You go with your bad selves. I couldn't
I
use more.
I
That's
I
like
honestly didn't have a problem with much of any of it. I mean, some of it was gory, but then I kind of expected it to be. It's Poe,
Yeah.
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 I'm used to Mike Flanagan's work. I've seen all of his shows, Bly Manor and Midnight Mass and all of that. So to me, I didn't feel anything was over the top. I was immediately, I mean, for myself, um, I was taken in the moment they started reading the poetry at the funeral.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was just like, oh, that's so cool that they're
Yeah.
incorporating this. The priest is speaking and he's reciting poetry, and I was immediately drawn into that.
Yeah, and Spirits of the Dead.
Yeah.
And
Yes, which is
just
one of my favorites. So
yeah, oh yeah, it's a great one. And just want to welcome who just joined a few minutes late, Season and Leela and Micah just joined us. And
thank you.
so and Mike says so good to see everyone. And so we just kind of got started, but we've just begun.
Well, the one thing that I'm saying about that part, and yes, and the cussing too, and I'm like you, Holly, sometimes I didn't catch all the times because when you're around certain people, you hear those F-bombs and it's just like you don't hear it. But part of me, when Carmen and I started watching it, we were looking at it from a standpoint of not being an audience, but being a critic
Okay.
and being a teacher.
Yeah.
So that's where it started catching my attention because I kept thinking, I'm like, you have this TV mature on Netflix, and unless the parents have, blocked certain things, everybody can access to this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's one of the battles that I know that Season you were a teacher too, or still are, aren't you? Or you?
I mean, I count our YouTube channel as teaching. So
Yeah.
Oh,
so, yeah.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, whether you're in the classroom or not in the classroom, but being a teacher, you are very much aware of these kinds of things. And I know Flanagan's work too. I've seen his stuff, and I was looking forward to it because I like Flanagan stuff. But for me, another little aspect that really bothered me is if he's trying to tie this, to Poe's stories too much, then it would people that were going to actually start to read those stories, it kind of would give them false information that they would be expecting this type of thing. Do I make myself clear?
can I
Yeah.
say something real quick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does everybody know we did breakdown videos on the whole entire show?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Comparing
We
side by side
didn't.
the stories.
Yeah, but we didn't watch it because we didn't want to get the spoilers. We hadn't finished watching all of them.
Well,
Sorry.
Yeah.
our one of them got a copyright strikes. Netflix went after, or we got 2 copyright strikes.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow.
Even though it's completely fair use, they went after us hard on it. And
Wow.
the whole point of the videos was exactly what you were saying, was like
Mhm.
we wanted to show people like what was actually true to the story and what was all artistic license and whatever by Flanagan. And we don't even consider them to be adaptations.
Oh.
We don't consider the show to be an adaptation at all. We just
No.
consider it to be inspired by, but that's as far as we take it, because especially in the Goldbug one, we were just like, this is more like William Wilson. This is
Mhm.
Yes.
basically William Wilson. This is not Goldbug. Although,
Yeah.
there was the only comparison you could really draw was like her trying to bring back Fortunato's fortune by, Goldbug taking off, but that was still a
Yeah.
stretch. Like there were many parts that episode in particular kind of bugged us because I loved the show, but like comparison wise, we thought the closest ones were the Black Cat.
Mhm.
Yes.
What were the other ones we thought were closest?
So the Mask of Red Death.
And then like Telltale Heart was great.
Yeah.
That was
Mhm.
like one of our favorites because I loved how he made that the instrument or the piece that went on the heart to look like the eye. Did you guys catch that?
Yes. Yes.
That was great. Like that, and he had like little hints all through. So I think what I was looking forward to is I've been a big fan of Mike Flanagan for a while. And I've seen Poe in everything he's done. Like there's been hints of Poe in all of his other work. So when he was going to take this on, I was like, this is going to be great. He's going to actually, and I knew that Mark was involved. So I'm like, if you put a Poe scholar on set, hopefully there'll be some accuracy with some of it. But I don't know. Overall, I liked the direction the show went. I didn't expect it to be direct adaptations. For what we do, I'm kind of glad he didn't go that way because he would have blown everything out of the water.
Yeah.
But I thought he did good. It's still only in order for me. Like I still like The Haunting of Hill House is like my all-time favorite because I think
Yeah.
it really moved me as a parent. And then I think like Midnight Mass comes after that, and then this is like number 3 for me. Just because some of the things you guys said too, like there's unnecessary cussing. it was in places where you're like, what? It
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
seemed like it wasn't timed the right way. But I mean, overall, I think it was like, I don't know, I really liked it, but
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't a one for one adaptation.
And I think to me, it seemed like the nudity and the language got a little bit tamer as you kept watching the show, the rest of the episodes.
True.
The nudity definitely tamed down. It's like he came out full force in the first couple episodes and then kind of drew back a little bit. But
Yeah, after Prospero's party, his rave, I think is where it started
Oh, yeah.
toning down.
that
Yeah.
was intense.
That was intense. But you know which character fascinated me the most to
Which
episode 6 and that's where I fell asleep.
Mhm.
Was Madeline.
oh yes.
Because
She was
in the
awesome.
Ball in the
She's
House of
brilliant.
Usher, she's a nut, to put it lightly, and
Yeah.
you know she's buried alive, and she comes after Roderick, and they're twins. And I was talking to my twin sister because I have a twin sister. She was watching it too, and she's like, you were twisted because because she's been watching it on Netflix. She's like, how can you watch this? Amy's squirmish like I am about things, but Madeline fascinated me because she was so strong and. I'm not going to take it. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, I'm going to watch her a little bit closely.
I think
I
the
figured
most
she'd be
interesting thing
wet.
about. Oh, sorry, Keith. I
That's
didn't
okay,
even.
go ahead.
Sorry. It was like a silence thing that bleeped out my end, so I didn't hear you. So I thought you were dumb. I thought was really interesting. She was like one of my favorite characters. But what I thought was interesting about all of them as a whole was that he was able to string the story together and have you be interested. But none of the characters were likable.
No.
I mean, all of them were horrible, horrible people. I mean, none of them, and probably
Except for
Roger was the
Lenore.
worst.
Except for
know?
Lenore.
Yeah, Lenore
Yeah.
definitely was a
You know what's
sweetheart.
interesting though about her, and I was talking about this with my husband, that even Lenore was like an innocent type character. And this is going to sound really heartless for me to say. When she died, I wasn't really all that choked up. I don't know if I didn't get more from her, but I was kind of like, or maybe because I knew it was going to happen. But she just
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, she fought for her mother and she was this strong character, but there was just something missing in her character development, I guess, that just didn't sell it to me at the end, that she just died. Because I almost felt like when she was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna let you kill me, I feel like maybe she should have fought more for it. So you struggle because, obviously, she's like, oh, I hate when I have to do this, but when I say the whole family line, we all have to, I don't know. But yeah, Lenore was, I don't know, she was missing something for me. She's a great actress. I know she was in that Dr. Sleep, and that little girl is awesome. But I don't know.
Yeah. Another character that I thought had some redemption was Annabelle Lee. And I
Yes.
was quite disappointed that, I think it was in the last episode where Roderick talked about her, when they separated, she took the children at first before they came back to him. And he never really said she just kind of just went away and died, or she's still alive, or anything like that. And then when he sees her at the church, it's like, and he was like, why are you here, or how are you here? So it makes you believe or kind of wonder, is she a ghost or is she really there? Because she didn't age very much, if just her hair was more modern and that kind of thing. And so I really felt like they lost a lot and could have done
Well,
a lot more with Annabelle Lee.
I think she killed herself because the
did.
whole back of her head was blown
Yeah.
off.
Okay. Okay.
So
Maybe I
think-
was looking away on that. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
she took her life.
Okay.
Because he took the kids and she couldn't deal with it because
Yeah.
they, rather have the money
Okay.
than her.
Yeah, Trisha, thank you for sharing that, because I must have looked away.
Yeah.
And Micah is showing her let's see, or Verna's driver's license. That was,
Oh, this is what he was telling me about. Okay.
yeah, it was Leanne, Pamela Leanne, and if you unscramble it, it is Annabelle Lee.
Oh, wow.
I was watching very intently for these kinds of things. And do you know what Verna
Yes.
is, if you unmix the letters, what
Yes.
that
Raven.
is? Raven.
It's an
Okay.
anagram for Raven. Yeah.
Yes. So that was really cool. Anyway, so I missed that part. I probably looked away. I may have been writing down a note or something. And so, yeah.
I thought Carla was amazing. Like not just like her character portrayal, but my gosh, the costuming. Like her dresses, her outfits were phenomenal. Like that last scene where he's downstairs and he tries to overdose and she doesn't let him. And her dress is all fluffy. And when they take the shot away and you see her standing there,
Yeah.
she's just amazing. She's got that allure to her.
Yeah.
And I loved the hint that she was like one of the creatures that Pym saw at the top of the world. Like I loved that because I'm like, that would explain who she is. Like how she's like, I had to lift the hatch to look at you as you went by. That whole scene was like great in the last episode because you're like, oh, little hint into like who she is and who Mike's kind of writing her to be.
Yeah.
But I thought Carla was just, I mean, she's good in everything that he has her in.
Yeah.
Everything she's ever been in, she's been phenomenal in. But this was like, I don't know, she was so consistently played. Even when she jumped up on the table,
That was scary.
I know.
Yeah.
That-
that was so good. That whole scene when they took the picture and it was like the ape was phenomenal. I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's just
that
brilliant.
was a
was
really
really
good episode. And I thought that was a nice homage to Murders in the Rue Morgue. Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Verna was probably one of my favorite characters just because she was giving it back,
Yeah.
and taking away.
Mhm.
Well, I have to say that whomever was the cast director did a phenomenal job picking the right people for the right parts because
True.
I can guarantee that some of them would not have been as well done if they had been done by anybody else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got, I can't ever remember, the one that played Madeline. Is that Addie McDowell? Yeah,
McDonald or something.
McDonald.
Mary
Mary
McDonald.
McDonald.
Mary
Yeah.
McDonald. That's right. I always got her and Annie McDowell mixed up. I don't know why. I think it was just their weird
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, just Dances with Wolves.
Yes.
That's what I
Yeah.
always remember her from.
Yeah, I did one of
Yeah.
these like, oh my, I remember her.
I remember her from Dances with Wolves and Grand
Yes.
Canyon. The movie was
Oh,
she did
yeah.
with Steve Martin.
That's right.
Oh,
Yes.
Independence Day. Yeah, that's right, Will.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
Mark
Donnie
Hamill.
Darko.
Yes.
I mean, come on, Mark Hamill. I mean, yeah, of course, most of us that were young enough to watch Star Wars, the original good ones, we're big Mark Hamill fans. Maybe I was more Harrison Ford because he was a scoundrel, but he, he pulled off Pym so spectacularly, and it just, and the one thing that I got the most was how these characters made these characters. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
The
Because
Yes.
actors
like,
made the
the
character.
actors and their own characterizations pulled it off where I guarantee you some people couldn't. Now, I will say that the first few episodes, I got a little bit tired of the social poking. You know what I'm talking about? Like the little nudges here and there about what society, kind of the agenda of going on and things in the world. I'm okay with it, but it started bogging me down a little bit because I'm like, you don't have to hit us between the eyes with it. We understand. We see, we know. I mean, I like what you're doing, but can we tone it down some? So that part's because once again, like I said, Carmen and I, we started watching it from not an audience point of view, but a critical point of view. So it
Yeah.
kind of
Well, yeah, not entertainment factors. Yeah.
exactly.
I think my only critical thing I would have to say about it, because overall I thought it was a good overall like a good, not at least not an adaptation but inspired by, was the part where Morella, who Freddie was Freddie is my favorite character in the show. I love him. I love that actor. But like when Morella decides that she's going to go to Prosper's orgy party. Now I know cheating has nothing to do with looks. It doesn't matter. It does not necessarily like a reason why people cheat. But if you're going to cheat on Freddie, which I can see why maybe you would cheat on Freddie,
Yeah.
but like you're not going to cheat with his skinny, scrawny, loser little brother. I mean, you can bring in bigger, better fish. So for me, I understand we had to get her to that point and we had to get her melted and we had to have all these things happen. But I just feel like that storyline, especially like she's leaving and he's there, like, Freddie was a really good dad before he went crazy because of this cheating thing. I just kind of feel like, to me, it just didn't make sense that she decided to go to his party because this guy has parties all the time. It just doesn't make it sense to me. That was like my one thing with that. and that Morales seemed like a pretty smart girl, that she
Yeah.
just went and walk into a situation where she obviously knew he would blackmail his brother, which is what he was planning on doing.
But
Yeah.
when she fell for that line he gave her at the front door, that really dirty description about what she could experience at his party, and he kept lowering his voice and kept getting closer to her. And I'm thinking, she ain't gonna fall for this. She's too smart to fall for this. And then later in the scene, she walks in the kitchen. I'm going out with my girlfriend. I'm like, are you an idiot?
I mean, those kind of places, I mean, I'm not saying like, I mean, I'm not sure where the state was, but these kind of things, you can find them more than at his party. It just seemed like such a stretch to me. If you're looking for something a little risque or something off the books, that you would have to go to his party.
Yeah.
That was my only thing with that. But I mean, it worked. And that scene where everybody gets melted was awesome. And where, you know, like when she comes out to that song, Wicked Game, which is a Chris Isaak song. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody's familiar with its original song. It's such a great, powerful love song. I mean, that really made the scene for me. I mean, it was a great scene.
Speaking of songs that I really picked up on that got to me was when they were making the deal with Verna. And if you noticed, it was after they had walled up Griswold.
Yes.
And they were playing in the background Another Brick in the Wall.
Yes.
By
Yes.
Pink Floyd, very subtly, very slowly. And then as she was getting them, kind of weaving them into her web, it started playing Wreck of the Edmonds Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Oh.
And I
Yes.
thought that was so cool, because it was like, all right, this is what you did. You walled them up, and
Yep.
now your ship is sinking.
Yep.
And you don't
Yeah.
even know it. You don't even realize it, but your ship is going to sink. And I
Yeah.
thought that was just brilliantly played, very subtle. But I picked up on it immediately. I was like, that's pretty cool.
I agree. My husband actually noticed both those songs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I love all those little nuances that are
Mhm.
very subtle. In the episode 2, The Mask of the Red Death, they talk about diddling dead bodies, with, post story
Right.
about diddling. Toby, damn it. I mean, that was, when she said that, she's like, Toby, damn it. It was just awesome.
Mhm.
And then another one I can't remember, it was toward the end. One of the, I don't know, like secretaries or something, says something to Pym about making an appointment or something. And he's leaving very quickly. And he goes, you'll have to rearrange that. I'm having Richard Parker for dinner. And I cracked up laughing. My husband was like, why is that funny? And then we had to pause and explain the whole situation. And he goes, okay, that's crazy, but awesome. The way that they added that
Yeah, I
line.
loved all those little subtle nuances that they weaved in there.
Yes.
The little Easter eggs in the bar, the background. You could
Yeah.
see like, okay, there's the Raven, there's MS in the bottle, there's, you know, and just those little subtle things, like you said, that they weaved in there. I kept going, through the whole
Come on
thing.
up, Cooper.
So
Me too.
I love that.
You can
Yeah.
come. It's okay.
Season, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm going to go back now and watch y'all's videos. The behind Rufus Griswold's desk in his office was, to me, like it was very tiki-esque from the late 60s, early 70s,
Mhm.
like look of, the style of mid-century modern, but it had a lot of tiki elements in it. Did that represent anything from Poe's stories? Because I was trying to pull out like different of the images from it, trying to think, okay, is this descent into the maelstrom? Because there was like, I don't know, it looked like a little storm on one of them.
We didn't really catch anything from Griswold's office.
Okay.
Something from Griswold that I and Longfellow that I had thought a lot about, though, like, and it did not hit me until like later, and I'm sure it's blatantly obvious, and I just like, there's so many things that I, thinking about it, like, hit me, was that whole scene when the kids run and they're looking over the gate into Longfellow's yard.
Yeah.
That to me was like, that was literally Poe's view of Longfellow, and
Yeah.
like Poe's view of longing for a life that he thought he should have, that he never did.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe it took me till after we did our breakdown videos for me to think about that.
Yeah.
because I was like, yeah, obviously that's the point they're making, duh. But until you like really take the long view on it, I mean, there's the house number, right? That you have to pay attention to. Longfellow's house number meant,
Right.
that had meaning. There's all those Easter eggs powdered through it. But then you have to somehow, with this show, you got to stand back sometimes and take like the long view. And I just, that scene, like, I was just like, why? How did I miss that? I mean, I know they tossed Longfellow in there. Some of the stuff felt shoehorned, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
any time that the poetry would be recited, I'd cringed every single time because it felt forced and it felt shoehorned in. And I was like, this is dumb. There's no way to
Oh, I
really
loved
put this
it.
in. There's no way. I love poetry. I have a whole poetry project.
Yeah, that was some of my
But
favorite
I
stuff as
felt
well.
like it was
I think because
shoehorned
I write
in.
poetry, I was really immediately, I was so into that.
Like the beginning set me off immediately because it was all cobbled together and it felt forced. But like, but anyway, but like the Longfellow thing really just hit me because I was just like, basically, like, what a great visual if you're able to
Mhm.
connect the dots with that, with like
Yeah.
how Poe felt about being kept out of that world. And like that was literally the whole how he took the Usher children and put them into that role in the show like that they were kept out of Longfellow's world. They were never invited in, even though it was their own father, and they were kept from all of it. And then
Yeah.
they eventually claimed what they could, and Poe was never fully able to do that. Not really. He was never fully accepted. He had his successes, but for the most part, he was outside of those circles.
Yeah.
And it's just like that kind of hit me at one point. I'm like, man, I can't believe that I didn't really see this before.
Yeah.
That shot was definitely on purpose, having those two kids looking over that fence like that.
Yeah.
That was
I agree.
definitely like a connection like that. So, but I didn't see anything in his office. And I mean, we poured over that show. I mean, I worked on the scripts with Thad for each of those breakdown videos, and I drudged through Reddit, I hate Reddit, but I drudged through Reddit trying to see what people were picking up that we were missing for Easter eggs. And I mean, each script was like, and there's things we had to leave out because there's so many Easter eggs in the show that it's like,
Right.
you can't hit all of them. There's just too many of them.
Mm-hmm. I
But
agree.
yeah, I could never see Roderick as a poet. I always felt like that was forced because his personality to me did not fit somebody to just haul off and start quoting Annabelle Lee. It just was weird to me. I like in terms of script writing, like as a poet, obviously I like poetry. I just like, for some reason in that show, it just felt shoehorned and out of place.
I agree with you in that I never felt that Roderick, like I liked the poetry and I feel it did most of the time work where it was at, but I felt like he was nothing like a real life poet. I mean, even if you were a poet that came into money, he was the most ruthless. Like I realized it was going to be kind of like the Devil's at the Crossroads storyline from the beginning. So when they're at the bar and they're making this deal, for this better life for themselves, and he didn't even have to think, like, because even his sister was like, hey, you're the one with kids, I'm never having kids, this is up to you if you want to make this. He didn't even hesitate. Madeline was the one who was like, hey, wait, think about it. I mean, this guy was pure bad. He just kind of goes against a lot of those natural things that I don't have a heart of a poet. Maybe Trisha would be able to say, but kind of like those natural things that poets tend to have, like love, a sense of nature, a sense of just like the good things in life, even like the good with the bad, like the melancholy. I just felt like he was just kind of really the most wrong of all the characters.
Well, they didn't sell it. I don't know.
I felt that he actually, at one point, Verna says to Madeline that he would have been a poet.
Yes.
If that would have been his what he would have ultimately would have become. I did see him struggle quite a bit with who he was and who he was becoming. The one parallel I noticed a lot was if you listen to Griswold's voice, he sounded a lot like Roderick, the older Roderick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed that they started to say, like, Roderick said a few things that Griswold had said to him in the very beginning, and they were repeating each other, and he became Griswold. I felt like he had an inner struggle of wanting ultimately to be good, but he couldn't get there. You know what I mean? Like it was easier to be bad, maybe. I don't know if that's exactly what I'm looking for, because I mean, I think he was also manipulated quite a bit by Madeline.
Yeah.
I believe
She
that
had
too.
a
Like,
real stronghold on him. And so I think he started out maybe with a poet's heart, maybe having those struggles. And I saw him kind of throughout the show. I didn't see him as ultimately completely bad. I actually saw him really struggle even with the loss of his children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see him as this just horribly evil character throughout the whole thing. I think he struggled back and forth with that.
Yeah,
I think he
I would
did
agree with
struggle.
that. I think if they're gonna have him spouting off poems, maybe show him trying to get something published and fail, or have something written down somewhere. Like the character, like that side of him, we didn't like. We saw him struggle as a human, and so I wasn't like phased by that. I'm like, yeah, okay, obviously he's turning into Griswold, which is why they had him quoting Griswold sayings and things that he had heard him say. So you could see that he was turning into the very thing he hated. And that obviously was the center struggle for him, right? But like if you're going to sell him as a poet, show him writing stuff down, show him typing stuff, show him doing what we do, getting inspired and writing it. But like it just, or getting published, or being in a publication, or in high school, winning a competition in high school, like a poetry comp, something. But there was no characterization in the show to indicate that that was a side of him that made any sense other than him spouting it off at weird times.
Usually,
It's like,
usually
and it
when he was
Maybe that was his
drinking.
dementia.
Yeah.
it's like Poe too. It's not his. But like, I don't know. That was just the thing. That's just, even when I was writing our scripts for our breakdown videos, when I would have to cover that, I would put "ew" in like capital letters because I'm like, I was just like, or forced, or yuck, or mention it because I'm like, man, if they had made that connection, I would have seen his character would have been a little more. It would have been wider, like a wider lens. But they only had 8 hours to get things done. So I get it. You're under time limits and stuff.
Yeah.
See, I think he had that struggle, but I think it was all a build up to that twist where we thought he was going to do the right thing and help turn him in. So to me, that internal struggle was all a farce. It was just a big charade. Like we're like, oh, this poor guy. We're seeing him struggle, like with the poetry, reciting it to his wife at the table in front of Dupin or Dupin, however you pronounce it correctly. And I just feel like it was all just a charade. And I do feel like the reason why we did see him struggling with his children's death, to me, I took it as because he knew that Vernon was real. It wasn't just some nightmare or some dream, and that he knew that meant he was going to die. And I do feel that he felt bad that Lenore was going to die, but I think he was a me person. And at the end of the day, we all think death isn't going to touch us until it touches us. So for me, I think he was just one big charade. He was just lying to himself. And his big concern at the end of the day was number one, which was himself. Not, you know what I mean? And the same thing with Madeline. At the end, she tries to have him commit suicide to save herself. She's not caring about his kids or Lenore. She cares about herself too. They're very similar, right? As people. So at the end of the day, I feel like she's kind of mirroring him and that they only care about themselves. So
Yeah. And to me, Madeline manipulated him till the absolute very end. Definitely.
Well, my favorite scene, and I know when I actually was the black cat one. I was rooting for that cat because when he woke up the next morning and he's covered with blood and that poor little animal's over in the corner, I'm like, oh, you are gonna get it so bad. And I kept waiting for it, but I like how they did it. I liked how it wasn't like the cat was some monster that came out at him and killed him or anything. I like how he ran toward the cat to kill it and just flipped over the balcony.
Yeah.
Just went over.
My favorite death was the pit and the pendulum scene.
That was a good one.
That was my favorite. I just thought that was just so brilliant. I don't know why it just I thought, wow.
Which episode was that one? It's probably the one
That
I
was
slept through.
I think it was the next to the last one.
Okay, yeah, I was asleep.
Yeah, it was.
When
Yeah.
Froderick went and he wanted the building destroyed.
Okay.
And he goes in and he had, I guess, the paralytic was in his cocaine.
Oh.
Yeah,
and that whole exchange with Verna, and then the swinging of the the iron or whatever that
Yes.
was that came down, I just went, wow, that
It
was
it
great.
was very well done.
Mhm.
Cinematography wise, I thought Tamerlane's death was pretty awesome
Yes.
too,
Yes.
with the mirrors and kind of like I think Season may have mentioned this earlier with the whole William Wilson
Oh yeah.
saying, you know, her
Oh
husband
yeah.
was William Wilson, and it would have been nice to have maybe incorporated him having those William Wilson moments instead of her, but I get why they did with her. And but yeah,
Was there any significance to the color green?
Yeah, so
Did
I,
you know?
I that's called Giallo. It's Giallo filmmaking. So it's kind of like a very specific filmmaking style by an Italian filmmaker. And
But I mean, like, was it
Envy,
significant to Poe at all? Like,
I wouldn't
because
say to Poe.
yeah, well, the only reason I ask is because I started going, okay, and I know it has nothing to do with Tamerlane, but I kept thinking like the thing about the many colored glass.
Mm,
And then I thought, does the color green mean anything? Because she was wearing a green dress when she
yeah,
was at the
It means
presentation, and then it's like the room started getting greener and greener and greener until the very end, and I thought,
yeah,
is there something to this and I'm missing it?
it could be green does normally like literature wise symbolize envy or greed and stuff like
yeah,
that. And
Okay,
she was very like kind of like her husband was always like she could never be happy, she couldn't rest, she couldn't relax. So maybe
okay,
it was just kind of like that was like ultimately what killed her. Or like you know what I mean? Was that she had to be in control and that kind of maybe it was something like that, like a literary reference.
yeah,
yeah,
there's
gotcha.
supposedly like each color did like you can find it online. Each color like um Flanagan's made it clear each color had to do with the personality. Because if you notice, all the conversations with Roderick, the room is gold. So you
yeah.
can find those colors all the way through the show. So
Oh, and
go back
maybe
and
that
watch
has something to do with
gold.
Red Death too. Mask of
Yeah,
the
oh,
Red
Red
Death.
Death was like it's passion and it's like,
Yeah.
corruption. Like each color goes with each character. And then Madeline didn't really have one. He says it was purple, but I didn't see too much with Madeline and purple. But you can go back and you can see gold with Roderick all day long. Almost every
Yeah.
scene he's in, there are gold touches, especially when he's talking to Dupin. It's always gold in the room.
Yeah,
So
now
each
that you
one,
say that, I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
And then like I think Lenore's was black. Because she got cut out early in life. So it's kind of like it was interesting because that's something we didn't really get to touch on in the breakdown videos. We didn't talk about Giallo filmmaking and stuff, but that
Okay.
was definitely a style they went with, which was I thought like you're saying, Trisha, I think that really enhanced her death scene with it green when it going
Yeah.
slowly, and then her having that whole William Wilson style fight with the fire poker and breaking all the glass. I was like, and then like how Verna was just like talking to her. It was like a total thing where it was like her having a conversation with herself. It was like that's one of my favorite death scenes because it had such a slow build up. And I actually
Mhm.
kind of felt a teeny bit bad for her, but he also covered the psychology of it, like she hadn't slept in days.
Yeah.
So like you have every aspect. You have like the supernatural, you have the actual psychological, which Mike Flanagan is like, he is just the master of you not knowing quite which side of what you're seeing is happening, if it's a psychological breakdown or something supernatural. Which is
Mhm.
why I was so excited that he was going to do Poe, because I'm like, Poe is can be both kind of. So it's like,
Yeah.
but that scene was crazy with the colors. That was like very intense.
Yeah. One thing that my husband and I picked up on, he didn't watch the first 3 episodes with me and Jeannie, so I had to catch him up. But it was the scene, one of the scenes, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember which episode it was, but it was when it was, you finally get to see the scene between Verna, Madeline, and Roderick making the deal. And Madeline makes a comment, something about, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, she rolled off with, what will you do with a Klondike bar? And that, that was New Year's Eve, 1979. That did not come out until 1986, that slogan. So they got that, and I sometimes pick up on those things, but my husband and I looked at each other like, that's not right because we lived it. And then when they're walling up Rufus, he calls them ballers. And that would not be until the 2010s. Just little tiny little things, but it's like, be accurate. You did a lot of other things accurately. Have those kind of things be accurate. But I will say, just throwing out, I have some students that I taught last year that know how much I love Poe, and they came running up to me as soon as they finished it, and were like, have you watched it? Have you finished it?" And I'm like, "Not yet, not yet." I said, it'll be a little bit of time." And they were like, so they came up every day for like a week, and they're like, "Okay, we're not going to talk to you ever if you don't watch this." And I said, "I will." But the excitement in young people to see of loving Poe, that was very exciting to me and other students in my classes right now. I'm thinking, okay, you don't need to be watching some of this because you are 13 to 15 years old. However, a lot of that stuff is not moderated by parents. So,
Well, my niece is in college now, so she reads like I do. Anything she can get her hands on, she reads it, whatever genre or whatever. And she asked me, she's like, "Who should I read next?" And of course, I went Poe.
mhm.
And she's like, I had to explain it to her about science fiction, everything, and da 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 da. And then she has watched this too with her mother, my twin sister Amy, and she picked up on it like I picked up, and Amy's like, "I just don't get it." But you
One
mean
thing that I
ball
liked. Sorry,
things?
Keith. Sorry, Keith.
That's
Didn't mean
okay.
to interrupt. Um, ballsy. Yeah. I was like, to me, it was like, yeah, you just put a mask on his face with all kind of hanging dingling balls. So that was kind of cool. Um, but no, the very last, the very last episode, I liked it when after Lenore's death and he goes back to, his high rise building and he's standing there at the window and Verna shows up and she's, telling him that every 5 minutes someone dies from ligadon,
Yes.
which kind of has its tie into Lagia. Um, so, and he's standing there, and all of a sudden you see all these bodies start falling, but it looks like he's taken the cinematography to make it more of a black and white. And to me, that
Yeah.
was like an homage to Hitchcock, for that one episode, for that one movie, the mesmerism one, the one with Salvador Dali. What's the name of it? Can't think of it.
Spellbound?
Spellbound.
Spellbound?
I think so.
Yeah,
Either that or
that's got the
Vertigo.
Dolly
Yeah. No,
cinematography in
but
there. Yeah.
yeah, but it was like all these bodies fallings, and I could think about that movie where where the bodies just start falling off the cliff, but it was like, oh, I like this. It's given that wonderful little nudge there, and
Yeah,
there's
it's
also the
a
part,
very powerful scene. Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, and it starts hitting him. It's like you see all this happening, and it's like, oh, look, what did I do? Oh, I have no legacy. I'm a monster. And they make that clear that he's like more of a monster than most of the ones who are true monsters in society. And I thought it was weird, but not really. They worked it in very well about how he was more upset with the death of Lenore, which I understand why. She was like his one good moment type
Yeah.
of thing. The one good thing that he could see, and he was kind of thinking that he could hope that she would turn it around after they'd gone. But of course, and everybody, if you paid attention, it says his line, the Usher line, would end with their death, and it's like, well, duh, that means she's got to go too
Yeah.
because she's an Usher. But no, the very beginning where um, Roderick is in the office with Rufus, and he's trying to convince him about Lander Pharma, to buy Lander Pharma.
Hmm.
Am I getting that right? Lander?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, that's a tie-in to Lander's Cottage.
Hmm.
So it was like, yeah, that's a little nuance that only people who are Poe people would notice that.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I don't know. It had its good parts. It had its really slow parts where I was like with Keith, I nodded off a few times. because I was like, wake me up when we get back to something interesting. Because at the first of few episodes, when you see you see Annabelle Gish's character
Yeah.
showing up behind Dupin at the house, and then you have all the other ones showing up, and then you have Roderick going nuts thinking, oh no. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. You didn't see anything else until the grandfather clock goes off, and you're like, well, why didn't he just, then you're like, oh no, he got his legs cut off. He probably couldn't walk as a ghost,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just kind of like some things you're like, well, why didn't you do the continuity and keep it going? But at the other times it's like, it's a little overkill in my opinion, but it still had its impacts between the cinematography, the music, the actors. So it kind of overall, I would give it about a 7 on the
Okay.
scale, as long as I stay away from tying it into Edgar Allan Poe. Because I'm like, sorry, I'm like, it's true. Because it's like, can you think about if poor Poe, now his face did show up in the bar scene, you know,
Well, see,
uh,
excuse me, but when I first went into watching this, I was trying to look at it from his point of view, his story. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I stopped myself. I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. You're going to drive yourself crazy. So then I started it back over, and kind of like you, I became a critic.
yep, yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's the truth for every Poe person that is fans of Poe, but for me, I couldn't think of it any other way. I couldn't watch it in any other way.
Yeah.
Couldn't turn that part of my brain off and go, no, because it's too ingrained. That's just me, though.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed it up to the point until I fell asleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I was enjoying it. I mean, really, and I got a kick out of that black cat. I mean, I was just thrilled when the cat
Yeah.
got him. I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, my dogs were looking at me like, "Whoa, what is wrong with you laughing?"
Oh, and of course,
Did you
Leo's boyfriend.
Did you catch?
Leo's boyfriend is referenced. You got that right? That
Yes,
reference?
yes,
Yes.
Did
He
everybody
was.
catch the fact that the cat was not real the whole time?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Because a lot of people didn't catch that. So like at the end, that was the real cat stepping over him. The cat that he was seeing the whole time was fake. The
Yep.
one
Yeah.
that stepped over him at the
yeah.
end. Because and Mike Flanagan commented on this. He's like, "You think I would kill a cat? Come on." He made a comment like he would never do that, right? So
Yeah.
he made a distinction between himself and Poe there. He's like, no, I would never kill a cat. That I forget what tweet it was, but he made a
Okay.
comment about that because someone asked him about that. Like, was that cat really real? And he's like, no, he didn't the whole thing. He didn't see. Plus, if you notice, all the way through that episode, nobody else is seeing the cat.
Correct.
He's the
Yeah.
way they cut it. He's always the only one that sees it, except for Verna.
Yeah.
And that whole scene where they cut to her and her eyes hanging out was brilliant. Like
Yes.
I love that so much. That was just and they didn't spend too much time on it. It was just the right amount of time.
Yeah.
Like they shot and then looked away and then it was like I thought that was great with her wearing the collar too. That was
Mhm.
Yeah. That was fantastic.
I thought they handled the black cat. That was probably out of all of them. That might be my favorite too. Same as you, Keith. I thought they handled it the best. I thought they handled his drug use and
Yes.
everything. That was probably we thought that was the closest to the
Yeah.
original out of all of them that they did. And I also thought it was just the most. I thought it was the best told one of all of them. It was a
Yeah.
true descent into madness mixed with drugs, mixed with everything else. Like I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it too. Will says for Flanagan, I would give it a 10. For a Poe perspective, probably a 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good.
Well, I do say the one thing is that I never thought I would root for so many people to die while I was watching a show. I'm like, I don't think this is exactly what you should be going for when you're watching something, but you shouldn't be sitting back eating popcorn and going, I wish you would just die.
Yeah.
You know, can somebody kill him already? Get him, you know, I'm done. It's like,
You
oh
bring
yeah,
up
rip her face off. I'm just saying.
That's actually a good point, Jeannie, because this is a weird setup, right? You start a
Yeah.
movie knowing that everyone is going to die. And
Yeah.
yet
Right.
it's still keeping your interest. So for me, when I first realized in that first episode, like, wow, everyone's gonna die, I was like, I can't believe he just told you that. Like, you have no hope for anyone. So even if you got attached to anyone, it didn't matter because you knew they were gonna die. So I thought that was a risky setup.
Mhm.
And I think he pulled it off brilliantly for me
Yeah.
because I was like thinking like, wow, because I've read and seen other things similar to that, and they've always been very horrible. Like he did a brilliant job of pulling it off, keeping you interested, and still having you dislike all the characters. So I mean, overall, I really do. It's one of those weird things. I feel like there was a lot to it, a lot of moving wheels. I really did enjoy it overall. I thought it was very well done. A little
Uh,
campy with some of the references. At some point, I do feel like he
yeah.
was just dropping Poe names and naming
Yes.
everything after a Poe thing just for the sake of fitting it in because he couldn't fit it in anywhere. A little bit more concrete into the storyline, so we're just going to start naming things and stuff. But for me, I was like, I could have done without that. But people who didn't realize that was Poe related, probably it just rolled off their shoulders and it didn't matter to them. So
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I was glad when the doctor died. The heart, the woman that was working on the
yeah,
patient trials and all that, she was the most annoying, nail biting, nails down the chalkboard character there was to me. I mean, she was whining and she was lying and she was manipulative, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till you get what's coming to you. And I figured out, what she did. That would be, the Poe line that would go
Mhm.
down. Now, the PR one girl that died earlier, Camille, was that it, Camille?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Camellia.
Camelia, I wanted her to hang around a little bit longer. I kind of liked her little sassy attitude. I'm like, yeah, you're spinning it. Yeah, you're doing real good here.
Yeah.
You're not taking crap from anybody. You're like Madeline. You do it.
Well, I think with the doctor girl is like she wasn't really a doctor, right? It was like her lover or her
Yeah,
girlfriend was a doctor, and I kind of thought the whole time she was riding on the coattails of her lover, right? She
right.
never did anything great. Like all the other characters, I mean, even Prospero at some point he was doing his own thing. Like she was the one that was really like her, living off somebody else's livelihood.
But
So
well,
she
that's
was kind
true.
of like one of those characters where it was like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't really like her, but yeah, her death scene was pretty much epic.
Yeah.
When she had that conversation with her lover, and they were having that argument, and her lover's trying to tell her that what you've done is wrong, it's unethical, da da da, and I'm going to report it, da da. And then it's like all of a sudden she goes into that Usher mode. Well, it's my name and it's my money that funded you. And I'm sitting on the couch going, oh, I can't wait. I just can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, she got what was coming to her, right? I feel bad
Yeah,
for her lover though. That stinks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Literally.
Oh,
That
Sandra.
that literally stunk.
yeah.
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 It literally stunk. Can you imagine
Oh,
walking into that room? Oh my
oh,
gosh. And seeing
Oh,
that scene was like epic.
yeah.
Yeah,
Walking
and
in
his
and
the
seeing
acting
that.
in that when he saw it, he was just like,
It,
I
it
know.
was the epitome of horror, definitely. Yeah.
It really was. But yeah, that was really crazy. The
Yeah.
way that went down. You knew when they cut away, something bad happened when she flung that thing. But
Oh,
they did,
yeah.
they did a brilliant job at tying it all together. They really did. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
My,
And then
my,
once I got to the third episode, I realized they were killing the kids off in birth order. I was like,
yep.
okay,
yeah.
it's not going to be a mystery. Who's going to die when? The only thing they changed it up on was Lenore, but that's because she was a
Yeah.
granddaughter. So,
That's
but like
true.
once you get to the third episode, you're like, oh, we're going youngest to oldest. Okay, all right.
Yeah. My husband thought that when Roderick walked into the room and saw her girlfriend,
Oh, Sandra.
he thought that Roderick was going to end up in self-defense killing his daughter. But then they did that twist, and he was like, that was great.
Okay, I have to say that scene when they walk into the bedroom and she's like plastered to the wall and her heart's showing and all
Mhm.
the first thing that my mind went to was Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, the waterbed scene where Freddy Krueger, kills Johnny Depp. And I'm going, oh, there was more blood in there because I was like, where's the blood? We need more blood. It's not enough blood. Okay. It's like, where's more blood? Yeah.
Oh,
And this is what I mean. I'm like, I turned into some kind of weird, murder thing. But
That
that's
was
true.
brilliant. It was brilliant how they did the heartbeat though, because I was wondering,
Yes.
like that was that was so creative because it could have been so dumb. Like
Mhm.
it's really hard to do a heartbeat in a way that's like that you're not. It's not thump thump. It's not like your standard telltale sound. Like that was
Yeah.
brilliant, tying it into a heart device, and
Yeah.
it's squeezing the heart of someone dead and how it would sound different. Like that
Yep.
was because the whole time you're like, okay, I think it's the device. But then when you see where it's really, and then when he heard it, when Roderick heard it, you're like, oh, that was like a
Mhm.
big aha moment because you're like, holy crap, he can hear it now.
Yeah.
That was just amazing. I love that so much. That was great. That was my second favorite episode, was the Telltale one.
Yeah, and I was very glad that at the very end how Madeline came up from the basement and falling onto Roderick just like the story, and then the house started falling down
Oh,
around them, and Dupine was able to get out. I was like, I'm so happy that he kept that true to the story, because if he changed it up too much, I was going to be like, I'm done. Even though I've watched the whole thing, I'm done. And so just because it's like, if you're going to call it the fall of the House of Usher, you better have that right.
Question for everyone. Does anyone have an issue with him calling it that? Because Thad does. He's like, that's not what it is. That's not what the story was. Like,
I did.
call it
Yeah.
something else, but don't call it the original name,
Yeah.
I looked at it as when not like the original story, the fall of House of Usher. I looked at it as the fall of House of Usher as a fall of the Usher family. Is
Yeah.
how I went into it. Because I'm like, oh, it's a powerful family. They're going to get to come up, but I didn't think it was. I didn't have it in my mind of a house falling on them at when I went into this. But
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I realized going into it, okay, they're all going to be dead, and then like you said, it was brilliant the way he kept you wanting to see more.
Yeah. Will agrees with Keith, and Holly did a thumbs up as well. When I first heard that he was doing this, I was very excited, and I was like, before you knew exactly what was going to happen within the whole, like all of the episodes and how he was pulling from different ones of Post stories, I should say, I was like, how is he going to drag that out for 8-ish, 10-ish episodes of the Fall of the House of Usher? He's going to be adding in a lot of Hollywood license. And then when I found out that he was weaving in all, several Post stories and things, I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And so I had a problem with it at first of him calling it that. And I'm still kind of torn. I do agree with what Keith said about it's like the fall of the House of Usher family, but maybe it could have been a different name, something in that line. But then it wouldn't be moving away from Poe like exactly word for word, but I don't know. I'm
I
still
didn't
kind
like
of
it.
torn.
You need
I
the
don't
Poe
like it.
title to market it. That's at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like
Yeah.
marketing, you need that
Yeah.
title to market it. So
Yeah.
people, when
That
they see it, they know what to basically expect from it. So I think from a marketing standpoint, and it makes sense, and I'm totally cool with it. The title for me personally.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that bothered me, and it's probably kind of on the same lines, maybe what Thad's having a problem, is if it was supposed to be an adaptation or a standard with the actual story, I would not have a problem with it being called The Fall of the House of Usher.
That makes
But
sense.
because he has wound and, woven all these theatrical, creative licensings in there, even though he did keep some Poe aspects to it, it's not true Poe. So why couldn't you just, I understand from a marketing standpoint, yeah, you want to people drag people in that'll start watching it that are probably Poe fans
Oh,
because they may think it's going to be a parody or an adaptation or something. But to me, the only thing that was true to it being the fall of the House of Usher was the end when Madeline is choking him out and the house falls down. It's
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
oh, look, yeah, Fall House of Usher. Can we get non-literal? So,
I
that's
Mhm.
the
kind of
only
feel like
thing that
too,
does.
like all of those Vincent Price movies, most of them were entitled Edgar Allan Poe names, and they were like the Black Cat. Vincent Price wasn't in that, But that's like one of my favorite, like it has nothing to do with the Black Cat, but that was like such a crazy, cool psycho movie. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
it
saying.
is.
Yeah.
Every time I see a house collapse like that, I think of Poltergeist.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think of
Yeah.
the whole, like, there's no way in my mind that Poltergeist didn't pull from Poe with the
Yeah.
whole collapse of the house at the end of it. Like, that's one of those Poe connections I've always made where I'm just like, I mean, gosh, the way it
That's the scariest
collapses like
movies to me.
that.
Poltergeist, scariest ever. I love those movies. I don't know why. To me, that's like the ultimate. The coach in there, like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I know. That and the pastor. Oh, there's very few characters in all of horror that are as creepy as that guy in the second movie when he's in, it's like raining and he's talking to them, and oh my god.
Yeah.
He's great.
Any more thoughts on Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher?
I'm gonna say one thing. I know this is not necessarily Poe related, but you know his series that he created, The Haunting of Hill House. For those who watched it, he did some psycho crazy stuff with the twins in that, which I thought was some of the best writing I have ever seen, like brought to life. And so when I thought originally when I heard about this story, I actually thought he was going to do it as a straight up horror like that, and I was expecting just like more complete madness. So that's why I was really surprised when it was actually set. It was like modern and it was completely different than what I thought. But like at the end of the day, I give it 2 thumbs up. I think it's really cool that he spent so much time trying to put so many little Poe things in there. I don't think very many people would do that. Obviously it was like a great, you know, homage to Edgar Allan Poe, and obviously he's a big fan. So I thought overall it was a really cool project, and I'm glad that finally got out for us all to view.
You guys,
I'm with you,
catch the
Holly,
other
on that
Easter
one.
eggs? Did you catch the Easter eggs from his other movies? Did you see the Oculus mirror? It's in there.
I haven't seen that.
All the stuff from his other sets from his movies.
No.
The Oculus mirror is in the bar. And then the what is it? It's the one where they move the thing all over the Ouija board. That's
Yep.
in the room with the twins, because there's that indication that there's like an incestuous relationship between the two of them in the show. In
Yeah.
their bedroom, when they pop up out of bed, the Ouija board from the Ouija movie's there. So like he's got Easter eggs from his other films, and they're in every single set. And I didn't realize it, but go back and watch Haunting of Hill House. Apparently, the Oculus mirror is in the house in that show too.
Okay.
I need to rewatch it. I keep telling my husband he won't watch it because I talk about it all the time. As seriously, to me, it is the best ever I've ever seen. Is that series? I have never seen anything scarier. I mean, interesting. It is to me like the ultimate. And my husband like refuses to watch because I keep talking about how freaking great it is. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch it again without you. But yeah, I'll rewatch it.
Yeah, watch for the Oculus mirror. I actually found it finally.
Trisha, we were going to say something. I think you
Oh.
were agreeing with Holly.
I just agree with Holly. I personally, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved it from a Poe standpoint. I loved it from Mike Flanagan's work. I've watched it twice now, all the way through. And every time I get to the end, I do one of these. Like I literally loved it. To me, it was 10 of 10. But you know, was it my favorite Mike Flanagan? I don't know, because I love each one he's done, you know, for various different reasons. I've never been disappointed in any of them, but I did love this series. I thought it was good. You know, a little less gore, maybe a little less nudity, but overall, I mean, that didn't really bother me too much, you know.
Yeah.
But I get from an educational standpoint, if you wanted to, you know, have your students watch it, it might be a little tough.
Yeah.
Because there's some great poignant aspects to it where you could learn a great deal from this show. But then I always you know, I think back to, well, kids swear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do.
They swear.
Oh yeah.
Kids have sex, you know. So I mean, you can't say that they don't. I think they do. So just it's a teaching moment.
Yeah.
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 That's the unfortunate part of it, because you know it happens, but it just is like, To me, yeah, as an adult, if I'm watching it from an adult standpoint, I didn't have a problem with it. I was just hoping for more bloodshed, in my opinion. But I was like, no, no, come on. Like take the head off, have an aortic throw of, some blood here, do a Jackson Pollock for Pete's sake. Let's do something. But that's kind of how I will. When I watch anything that has to do, and I'm putting air quotes on horror, those are my comedic movies. Even my students at school would bring up some of these movies just so they could hear me laughing about them. Because I would always bring up Halloween. I'm like, how can no one get away from this dude? He walks slower than me. I
Oh, you
mean,
mean Michael Myers?
yeah, Michael
Michael
Myers.
Myers is great. I think he's
Yes,
one of
he
the best
is.
all-time horror guys.
Come on.
He is the boogeyman. You can't kill the
He's great.
boogeyman.
Wait, you talk about somebody rooting for Jamie Lee Curtis to get it? I was one of those people.
I
I was
mean,
like, can you get her already and shut her up?
I,
I'm
I
tired of her
I
whine and scream.
loved it. I loved it. My stepfather took me to see it when it premiered at a theater here, a small one, Grandin Theater, on the October night. It was raining when I was 8 when it premiered. They figured if they took me to it, I would shut up about it, and horror would be the end of it. Oh, I just fell in love with it after that. And I mean, because I said it was the boogeyman. Do you know the boogeyman got away, Dad? And he was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
Well, I mean, and each their own, but I'm just saying it's like, I can handle that. So yeah, I mean, if I'm not looking at it as a strict critic of Poe's work, it was a 7 out of 10. Okay, because
Yeah.
it was Mike Flanagan, and he had a lot of cool nuances in there.
Yeah.
The videography, the tie-in with the music, those kinds of things. It was like having a scavenger hunt while you're trying to watch a show. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. I like it because it piques the detective in all of us if we're trying to look for something. But
Yes.
it just it is what it is. It's better than some of the crap they put on lately of anything else. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
compared to
I
other things,
definitely want to rewatch it just for entertainment and not be taking lots of notes and just enjoy it for what it is. And overall, I did enjoy it. I liked it. And of course, I always every time I see something or read something, I'm in the middle of several different books that have Poe characters or something in it. One of them is Holly's book, which is amazing so far. And I'm about halfway through. And that comes out Friday, by the way, for everybody on here. I have Athena. But anyway, my first question I always ask is, what would Poe think? And I think, coming from a time of the 1800s to now, he obviously would not have been okay with probably the nudity and those kinds of things. But I think the homage to his work is, I think that's the thing that he would be tickled to death about. And that is pun intended with tickled to death. Um, I just, I don't know. It just it's very surreal to think about what he left us and what people are doing with what he wrote, and it's very cool. It's just really cool to honor the man.
Well, he's still popular. I mean, he
Yeah.
still pops up in modern day pop culture. I mean, I run across things now and I'm like, oh, it's Song by Stevie Nicks. Oh, it was mentioned in The
Yeah.
Symptoms. Oh, look, it's here and there. And I've got a couple of books where they've incorporated Edgar Allan Poe into one. He's in the Wild West solving a crime with Nellie Bly. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, because but it's to me, it just fascinates me that he's brought and talked about all the time and referred to.
the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of with Edgar Allan Poe in the West would be he would be called a popinjay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for those that don't know what a popinjay is, yeah, those were the cityfied what's a good word for them?
Um, um,
The feminine guys. Let's put
yeah.
it that way.
Like
A dandy.
The
A
dandy.
dandy.
The
Yeah,
dandy.
You mean
fancy.
a
No, you know, it's more than
metrosexual?
fancy dressers. They would. That's what they used to call the ones they thought were queer. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's what they used to call in the old West was Poppin' Jays. But because I think about, you know, he was so feminine in certain aspects of his writing, but it's like no one ever can say exactly the way he was in real life. Because I mean, like, although he was a ladies' man, although most of the ladies left him or died, but you know, he didn't have a good track record. I'm
No,
just
he
saying.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. What is
Part
it,
of it
Cooper?
was his, you know, wasn't his fault. That's okay.
What is it, Cooper?
Well, but yeah, I like it because they're keeping Poe's name alive, and that's one of the things that hopefully will keep going.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it. It turns people to post stories.
Yes.
Yep.
They find out about those.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
there's so many out there, then so many different interpretations. It's like we've said on many of our unplugs when we talk about these stories. They 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 give each person a different reverence every time we read them or we talk about them, whether you're what age you're at and whatever you're looking at and everything. So, I mean, and that's what to me is what's the most important about Poe. Poe is still going to have an impact no matter your age,
True.
gender, whatever time period, whatever it be. And either you like it's like opera sometimes. Some people like it, some people don't.
What is it, Cooper?
That's
So
true.
that's the way it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go back and rewatch this, but I was glad I did watch it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No, I've got 2 episodes left, but I mean, you filled me in. I know what's going to happen, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's going to be a shock
Yeah.
to my system. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm still going to watch it because I did enjoy it, but I kind of rated along the way Jeanie did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I did like the very ending scene where Verna starts placing those tokens on the tombstones
Yes.
for the map for Prospero, the cell phone for whatever the hell her name was.
Morella,
Camille. Or was it
No,
Camille? Camille?
Camille. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the cell phone for Camille, and then of course Pluto's collar,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was what came after Pluto's collar. Was that the Telltale Heart? Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
because
Yeah. And the gold bug.
yeah, and then the gold bug for because they were going in order like we talked about of their deaths. So she was placing, she placed the device that was beating the heart, and then she put the gold bug on for Tamerlane,
Tamerlane.
and then what was it she put on for Frederick?
Freddie.
Bag
Can't
of
remember.
cocaine.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the bag of cocaine. That's right. Because I was thinking, I don't think she put a pendulum on there, but yeah, the bag of cocaine. And then the eyes for Madeline, which by the way, that was the one point that I knew they were gonna do it. They had to bring in some words with a freaking mummy somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
thought of
yeah.
you, Jeanie. And I even said out loud when they showed the eyes, I was like, oh, I'm so glad Jeanie is not here right now because I'd never
Yeah,
hear the
well,
end of it.
and not my favorite. So I was like, oh.
Oh, well,
I
I
just
also
kind of
thought of his
overlooked it.
story with Scheherazade as well.
Yeah.
Just that whole thing.
But-
So,
And then of course the glass for Roderick.
yeah.
And I was like, I was like, why didn't she put the actual, the bottle thing that had, the silver gold bottle,
The
thing.
cognac bottle.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I
Because
thought the same thing.
Yeah,
well,
because
and
it
also
was Verna's before it was his. Yeah.
yeah, but also that would pay homage to the Poe toaster.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I thought, why not do that? Because he does make a little reference to the Poe toaster in there, slight, but I was like,
Mhm.
whatever. But no,
Yeah.
that was the ending scene, and I thought that was a very good wrap up. It
Yeah.
just, it brought everything into focus and just went, okay, now it's time to move on.
Yep.
So that's all I'm going to say.
Any last thoughts from anybody else before we end our discussion.
No.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on our, special edition Poe Unplugged. And later on in this month, January 30th, same time, same Zoom link, we'll have Murders in the Rue Morgue. So please join us for that. We're really looking forward to that. And Alex, Jeanie, help me pronounce his last name.
Zinda
Zavatovic? No.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes. We did an interview with him, and I always butcher his name, and I feel horrible when I do. But Alex from the National Edgar Allan Poe Theater will be joining us for that discussion, and they just did that live, and the recorded version, I believe, is out online as well now. So
They do
I
such
can remember
amazing work.
Disney Act, but
he
I can't
does
remember
season, yeah.
So, whatever.
We're trying to
Yeah.
figure out some kind of partnership or some kind of project we can work on with them because we absolutely love their work. I mean, I
Yeah.
love Mark's work too, but I love just Jen and Alex. They're all such great voice actors. They have so much talent, and
Yeah.
they're just a lot of fun to hang out with too. They're just
Yeah.
really fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oops.
So, and then
Thank
don't
you.
forget Holly's book comes out Friday.
Yes.
And then Season, if we
Okay.
want to get our own breakdowns, Season has their breakdowns for the Fall of the House of Usher. You said two of
Yes.
them got taken or copyrighted. Are
Yeah,
they
we got strikes.
released
Are they
yet?
all up, Thad? They all up? No, the videos for the breakdown. Yeah, they're all up.
Are they?
Okay.
Were they the ones I'm seeing on YouTube, or is it someplace else?
Yeah, they're only on YouTube. So
Okay. I mean, I caught it before I watched the series. It wasn't like I was actually searching for it, but I was looking for Poe Unplugged because I forgot to do whatever. Well,
Yeah.
and it all came together. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
yeah,
So I just wanted to
we had
plug
two
anything.
taken down. That was it. So
Yeah.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I haven't looked
And
to
then-
see which ones they are yet, but it's ridiculous all around. But whatever.
Cool.
You can watch the ones that are up. They were a lot of work. There's a lot of script writing. So
Oh yeah. I'm anxious to go watch them now.
Yeah.
And then Trisha, didn't you just have a book come out recently as well?
Well, I have another poetry book that I released in September, but I'm working on a another Poe related poetry book.
Oh, cool.
That's
Cool.
about 3/4 of the way finished.
Okay. Awesome.
And it's just strictly dedicated to Poe, just kind of
Okay.
like the Ghosts of Nevermore, but
Mhm.
it's actually it's all shovel poems.
Oh.
Okay.
So
Oh, very neat.
golden shovel poetry. So yeah.
Okay. All
Well,
right. Well, we'll
I've
be anxious
enjoyed
for
the
that to
Ghost
come
of
out.
Evermore.
Too. That was a good book, Trisha. I like that
Yeah,
a lot.
Yes.
it
Well,
was.
thank
So
you.
Holly,
Thank
what's the
you
name
so
of your
much.
book
My
coming out?
book is named The Eye of Athena. It is a supernatural suspense that's inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. It basically tells the story of this guy named Kenneth who is Edgar Allan Poe's best friend in his childhood, and he is basically the inspiration for all the stories that are to come from him.
Oh,
So it kind
sounds
of gives
good.
like an
I'll have to
alternative
order it.
history. It's set in Virginia in 1826. So it's kind of like a little bit of a historical retelling. Completely inspired. Obviously, none of these people are real, but besides Edgar Allan Poe.
And it
Sounds
and
good.
the book comes out tomorrow.
It actually comes out on Friday.
On
Which-
his
you
birthday.
can pre-order it on Amazon or
Okay.
Friday. It'll be available wherever books are sold.
Amazon and me again. This is going to be a
Yeah, I
trick.
was gonna say the ebook is right away, but I know anything the paperback or the hardcovers are like almost 2 weeks. I ordered books the other day, and it's been like a month. Like I'm checking every day, it still hasn't shipped. I'm like, what the heck? Holy
Oh,
crap!
wow.
It's like
Well-
killing me.
Terrible.
I have an event in February. I'm like, I need books, people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I ordered this one a way back. I don't know what happened. I got a notice that it was out of stock or something, and it would be immediately along, and they were going to ship it, expedite it, and it didn't come, and I forgot I'd ordered it, and then it came, and I'm like, oh, and then there was a mix-up in the billing. I got billed twice for it because they said they'd sent me two, and I said you only sent me one. So and the chat bot is not friendly.
Oh no, it's such a pain. Because I know when I ordered Trisha, I got yours in the hardcover, and I think that took almost 2 weeks to get there.
Yeah, and now
Oh,
they're
wow.
saying,
Yes,
I was
Cooper.
just looking at one of my hardcovers and it says 6 to 7 weeks
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's
for a
Wow.
hardcover.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy. The paperbacks are like a day or two,
Yeah.
but the hardcovers are like 6 to 7. And actually, what they're doing with that, from what I understand, is that if you're like a high seller, like you sell really a number of books,
Mm-hmm.
then you're getting it within 2 weeks. But
Oh.
if you're
Okay.
like, okay, I'm an indie writer, so I'm not like a bestseller. So, my paperbacks, a couple days, hardcovers, 6 to 7 weeks. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
because that's the
is.
print on demand. But what they do is if you, I
Yeah.
guess if you do sell some, like they'll print more than they actually sell, so then
Yes.
they can,
Yes.
you know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Such a pain.
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
just
Thank you.
also remember too, if you have suggestions of what you want to read, let's see, February, we haven't announced this yet, but we're going to be reading The Sleeper. Ari or AA Rubin is going to be joining us. March is Jeanie is at the Oval
Yeah.
Portrait. April, I don't remember. We have it mapped out. I can't, and there's no telling where that note is. But yeah, and so we've got lots of really cool things coming up. So if you have a suggestion of something you would like to read of Poe's, definitely let us know, and we will make that happen. So this was
Okay.
a suggestion from you guys, and oh, I know what it is. March, I think, is we're going to be discussing mysteries behind Poe's death, which
Yep.
was Keith's suggestion. So,
Yeah, because
yeah, I think it was
yeah,
either
Disney
Keith or
actually
Leela. I
went
can't
to-
remember which one.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, guys, thank you. This has been awesome. And everybody have a happy 215th Edgar Allan Poe birthday on Friday.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Poe.
Happy
Yes.
birthday, Poe.
Yes. All right. Bye,
Have a great night,
guys.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.